I had a one-to-one video consultation with one of you who booked it with me yesterday, a buyer. And the main reason for the call was to discuss the price, whether or not he was overpaying, whether or not he should renegotiate. And the long story short, what I want to talk about in this video, just a very short video on this, is that he was an example of someone who was worrying about the money, not the move. And by focusing on the money, was missing completely the point that actually the move had very little chance of happening at all. And he was saying things like, I don't want to lose the purchase. The property is ideal for me, but I think I'm overpaying slightly. We discussed the price of stuff. And then it occurred to me through the things he was saying was, hang on a second, the things that the seller and the agent's been telling him, this ain't happening. This sale's not happening. These are the red flags, or the amber flags at least. And I said, before you spend any more time and money on this particular transaction, you need to get certainty that you're actually going to be able to proceed, because it sounds to me like the seller is absolutely not committed to buying. They haven't yet found somewhere else that you know they can move to, and the place that they're saying they have, you don't know whether that seller has an onward chain or not. And so this buyer was expecting, so we're now in late October. He said, I think we'll be completing at the end of January. No chance. Like, perhaps if everything lines up perfectly, but in my experience, you are many, many months away from a deal completing. And I said, the first question that you need to find the answer to is the house that the seller you're buying from is going to buy being sold with no onward chain or not? If it's being sold with no onward chain and the seller's got their legals ready, then perhaps there's a chance that you will actually get it sold and completed by the end of January. But otherwise, think about the timings required here. A price hasn't even been agreed yet. When it is, you don't know if the seller has instructed, the onward seller hasn't instructed their solicitors yet, and you don't know whether they have an onward chain or not, because if that seller needs to find a home before they can move out and hasn't started looking yet, you're talking about 6 to 9 months from now before there's a chance of this happening. And the buyer just said, it never even occurred to me. I just, the agent told me everything was fine. They told me the seller's definitely committed. I said, well, an agent would say that because they don't want to lose you if you find out that actually the chances of this deal going through are okay, they might be moderate, but not in the timescale you want. An agent will string you along in that scenario because they don't want to have to find another buyer. And I said, you've got to decide to yourself, if it is going to take that long, are you willing to wait, or do you want to find another property? And I said, what you've got to do is, you've got to set out your terms and say, I'm still very happy to proceed with the sale of this house, but I do need some certainty on timings. Can we agree some timings, please? And if you don't get a satisfactory response and commitment to those timings, then you need to say, well, then I've got no choice but to start looking elsewhere. Because this is one of the situations that causes so many deals to fail. A lack of transparency with what's actually happening up or down the chain. This particular buyer was at the bottom of the chain. They were a cash buyer. And indecisiveness on the part of other people in the chain that you don't get told about, because if you're told about it, you're going to go, well, hang on, if they're not sure, I need to buy somewhere else. So we ended up having quite a long discussion about what is the reasonable and fair thing to do, because people tend to fall into one of two camps. Either they are total pushovers, a bit like this buyer was being up to this point, right? Just, yeah, okay, I'll go along with whatever you tell me and assume that's the case, when actually all the warnings are there that it's not the case. Or the other camp people tend to fall into is they go full on batshit hard-nosed crazy, like, if I don't get this by this, then I'm pulling out, blah, blah, blah. And that often can be just as destructive to a deal. So this is why what I try to teach in my videos is for you to set out your position calmly and firmly, so that other people know where they stand. You should never have to worry about, oh, but it might upset them, it might offend them. I'm not saying you should go out of your way to upset anybody, but if you don't set out the boundaries for yourself, other people will decide them for you. It is completely reasonable and ethical and perfectly good manners to set out your boundaries so that everyone you're dealing with knows what they are and knows where they stand. And it will always have one of two outcomes when you do this. Number one, you will flush out the fact that they weren't committed to the transaction and cannot meet your terms. So you are then released from any more time being wasted and can move on with your life. Or it'll make them pull up their socks and go, right, we don't want to lose this buyer. We better get this thing done and stop dilly-dallying. All right? So whether you're a buyer, whether you're a seller, whatever, all I'm saying is make sure you've got clear answers to the questions you want answers to. Don't get fobbed off with, yeah, it should be fine. No. I'd like to know precisely, is there an onward chain from my seller's onward purchase? That's really important to me because that affects the timing. Please, can you confirm one way or the other? And if you don't confirm that there's not a chain, I will have to assume that there is one. Okay? This is just being firm and, if you like, professional about it. Okay? It doesn't require being rude, and I know a lot of people find it very, very difficult and very awkward to just be assertive with their position. Quietly, calmly assertive. If you're not, you will get taken advantage of by other people who are. Starting with the pushy agents, and then starting with other people in the chain who might be pushier than you. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Hope it's helpful.